he was the first guy to play c5. But he was also the first guy to ever face e5. So everybody, strangely enough, met bishop to b4 with e takes d5 until, again, that first game where Winawer faced e5, and that was against a player named Mortimer. And by the way, Winawer only faced it that one time, e5. So it's kind of strange to me that this variation is named for him, since it's not e5, c5 that's technically the Winawer, but 3 bishop to b4. He was not the first person to play it. He wasn't the first strong person to play it. His results with it weren't particularly good. It's just peculiar all the way around. All right, so I'm definitely not casting Winawer in his best light, but hey, it wasn't me who put him as number 43 on a top 50 list. All right, so enough bashing poor Szymon Winawer. As I said, he was nevertheless one of the best players of his day, and well, we'll see that he could beat very good players, and we're going to see, in fact, him beating none other than good old Wilhelm Steinitz right now. So he does get some props. And he beat Steinitz, I think, 2 or 3 times in their careers. So this game was played in Nuremberg, played in 1896, a couple of years after Steinitz had lost his world championship title, but was still playing very good chess for the most part. And here we go. So e4 by Winawer, e5, and now d4. So this is actually a pet line of Winawer's. He played it more than once and won some nice games with it. So e takes d4 now, queen d4, knight c6, queen e3, knight f6. All right, so here, I should say instead of knight f6, there are a couple of games where Winawer faced bishop to b4 check. One was against English like the country, but with an extra SCH at the end. And he won that game, as he also won a game against a player named Riemann. So, like I said, he played this quite a few times and over a fair stretch of time, and had some good results. All right, so you can see Winawer was certainly an aggressive player. Knight c3, bishop b4, bishop d2, castles, castles, rook e8. So this is still the main line of the center game more than 120 years later. And here, nowadays, the most common move is queen to g3. It gets out of the way of this lineup with the rook on e8, and there are also some hints of bishop to h6, or after bishop c3, bishop c3. Of course, knight e4 is impossible because queen takes g7 is made. So queen g3 is the main move. Queen to f4 is a funny-looking move that is also relatively popular these days. But there's a third move that should be known about if you're a black e4, e5 player, and that's the move chosen by Winawer in this game, bishop to c4. Now, I think it is inferior to the 2 queen moves, but it's not terrible, and it does have a small trap. And I would say that the trap comes because we're all familiar with queen g3 and then black taking on e4 either right away or very quickly. So the difference here is that the capture on e4 after taking on c3 is probably not best. I think black's best move here is d6. So just a very modest option here. White generally plays f3, which I think is inferior to knight f3, although I would say that after knight f3, if black plays bishop to e6, he's slightly better here. But f3 is the main move at the present time. And this, I think, is a further inaccuracy. After knight to e5, bishop b3, a5, a3, bishop c5, queen e1, and now the very lively b5. Not only is black doing fine, he's probably just winning here. And both the computer and practice would seem to confirm this assessment. Black has won 6 games, drawn 6 games, and lost not 6 games, but no games. So it's a 9-3 score for black here. So avoid this with white. And again, objectively, well, white can do better than this, but it does seem objectively like black is doing quite well after bishop to c4, provided, of course, that he's properly prepared. All right, in the game, Steinitz played the more direct and greedy sequence here, taking on c3 and then on e4. And after queen f6, I would say that white's compensation is sufficient. All right, so here black played knight to f6, which is, I think, probably the more common move. Rook to e7 may be objectively better, and white does not seem to have anything better than to regain the pawn but surrender the bishop here. And this position is equal, it seems. All right, so that's how you could play from here with black. He went knight f6, knight f3, d6, knight g5, bishop e6, bishop d3, h6. And now we have a very interesting moment in the game. Objectively speaking, the best move is knight takes e6. And it's about equal. I would probably prefer to have white, I think, very slightly because of the bishop here. But objectively, it seems that this is just equal. However, well, it's for a pawn. So white has good compensation with the bishop here for the pawn. Instead of this, though, Winawer and many other people as well, so this has been by far the main move here, they all went h4. And objectively, I think this is a mistake, but it's very tricky, and it's hard to resist this. Okay, so what should black do now? Well, definitely not h takes g5. That's pretty easy to reject. The move that was played in the game is very natural. Steinitz and many other players have played knight to d5. So this was played, I think, in 11 games out of 13 that got to this position. So I think one game black played h takes g5 and, of course, got butchered. The best move was only played once, but still the best move, and that's knight to e5. So if black finds this, white, I think, well, may not be just losing, but is certainly in trouble. All right, so bishop e5, de5, queen e5, bishop d5, queen g3, and queen to e7 was played in the one game that got here, and that reduced black's advantage somewhat, and white eventually managed to escape with a draw. The best move was queen to d7. You might go to g4, but more likely, if possible, black will play queen to a4 and start drumming up his own queenside attack. So black is clearly better here. It's not a hopeless position for white, but it's not so great, to be sure. Okay, hg5, you can see how that went in the PGN. The game itself was not very well played at all. White was completely winning, and then he was even lost, and then went on to win anyway. But objectively speaking, it is losing for black to take. The key thing here is instead of bishop to e2 was played in the game, either rook to h4 or rook h7, simply intending to double, keeps clearly winning advantage for white. By the way, there's also, going back to Winawer and the variation named for him, I give all the historical stuff there in the PGN file as well. So you can see the earliest games with the Winawer, his games with it, his games facing it for that matter, and all the rest. Okay, so back to the game, knight to d5. It's a very tempting looking move. I mean, you're attacking the queen. You want to get rid of this powerful bishop on c3. It certainly makes sense, but it is not the best move. All right, so continuing here, white played bishop h7 check, and black has to be a little bit careful. You'd like to go to f8 because it feels like it keeps f7 more carefully guarded, but the problem is it would just blunder a piece away. Knight e6 check, rook e6, and rook takes d5. So you got to go king h8. No choice there. All right, and now this is a nice sacrifice by Winawer. He goes rook takes d5, bishop takes d5, and okay, there's bishop to d3 is probably also equal, but bishop to e4 is clearly the most testing option for black. And here's another little puzzle for you if you're feeling ambitious, and I hope you are. Black to move, how does he save the game? Steinitz did not figure it out, but it can be done. The position is still not only tenable, but equal if black plays correctly here.